Live at the door. All right. All right, you're good. You go inside. Good morning. I know. It's so funny. The recording in progress is so funny. Recording in progress. Good morning. Hi, everybody. I have Charles, a homie I've played with in Chicago in a really cool band. We both were, my first inspiration in like music was this band called Hum, and I feel like that these guys are like the direct descendant, spiritual successor of it in a way. This is Charles from fucking Sea Cars. Welcome,
Thank you.
Dog.
That is like the nicest compliment I've ever gotten. One, like that's a top tier guy because I love Hum. Hum has become a big inspiration. Honestly, before I started writing music for this project in like 2015, I didn't know who Hum was. I didn't find out about Hum until maybe like 2017, if not 2018. I just had someone randomly. Yeah, dude. I had someone randomly from the DIY Chicago group I was in. I posted about something and dude randomly messaged me and he was like, hey, like, I can't help you with this, but I just wanted to let you know, like, if you don't know who Hum is, like, you guys sound exactly like you remind me of Hum. If you don't know them, check out the song Stars. And dude, that was it. That was it. I was like, this band, and now like I sit here in my room like almost every night playing like all of Inlet, their most recent one, because I love not that I don't love their old like that.
Sure, Inlet's just different. Inlet's got like,
I love the doominess, the stoner rock. I live for
so thick. It's so much thicker. As much as that band is really thick, and like they have my favorite love song of all time, which is Why I Like the Robins. Like Inlet, and when it came out, I have an interesting relationship with Hum in itself because I started listening to Hum when I was 11, 12, or 13.
Wow.
Okay. So I'm gonna take it even further back. My dad only listens to alternative radio.
Okay, that's kind of like my mom in a sense. So
homie was always like, here's a good story. My dad, he called me one time. I think that I was like 18 and maybe I was 17, and he was like, hey, I need you to help me get, clear out space on my iPod. I'm trying to put Best Coast on there.
Oh,
and I was like, yo, sure. And this is like right before they blew up. And I helped him and I listened to Best Coast. I was like, damn, this is fucking good. But like, that was like what it was like my whole life with him. So like I grew up in Iowa City. So like there's a really killer, college radio station called 89.7 KRUI. And it's like really good, and they like they'll play shit from like that's where my dad heard Hum for the first time. That's where my dad heard Best Coast. That's where I was listening to there's a song 65 Days of Static, song Retreat by them. Like that's where I first heard that. Like there's all of my entire musical taste is like from this one weirdo radio station back in Iowa City.
That's so cool though. It's very different. It's cool to be that like specific and.
But my dad had heard that song, had heard Stars by Hum, and then called it in to be played. And my dad had a tape recording in his like 1996. Like I had a 95 Corolla. He had like a 97 Camry. Like he had like
Toyota family. Okay.
Yeah, it was I have a whole Toyota family. I will never not drive a Corolla. I'll never not drive just a Toyota in general. But he like recorded it on tape. And then like he drove me to like school to do like Early Bird PE. That was what it was called. If you wanted to take more classes, and he was like, "Yo, listen to this," and like press play. Listen to this on my way. I mean, again, I think I was 13, and I was just like floored by like that first moment where everything explodes after just the clean guitar. It was like there's before
that
me
initial
then,
when the distortion hits.
It's just there's something just I think everyone has that moment of the first time they heard like that specific thickness in a thing, and like again, there's me before that moment and me after that moment.
Honestly, they're a very ethereal sounding band, and I feel like I kind of feel like that's what you're saying when you say like they're a thick band, like they just have such a dent, like almost like enormous sound, almost even.
It's wall of sound. It's just like it's like high compression, high gain, just thick as fuck. The vocals are so pulled back in the mix, like you can barely hear what he's saying. It's awesome. I like
that's
that.
Why I like it though, and that's honestly why I really liked Inlet, because I feel like because they take that stoner rock turn, he then like drones his vocals to like match the droniness of that stoner rock, and that's and now that you say that, now I'm really like hearing the vocals again. It does sound very kind of peeled back, and I never really noticed that.
It's like vocals. He doesn't want. I mean, I got to see Hum live here in Nashville.
Stop it, dude.
Doing a tour for Inlet, and it was a.
R.I.P. Their drummer.
Oh yeah, this was right after. This was like this is the tour they did right after that, and it was like I got to talk to Matt like very briefly.
He's the vocalist, right?
Yeah, he's the vocalist guitarist, and homie is like so incredibly shy, and it just made so much sense. Yeah. It was just like there's a reason why he's just like homie's just pulled back on everything, and like. And when he explodes, it's through his, like gravel of his voice rather than from like it's almost like there's no compression on his vocal. It's like when he yells, you actually hear the yell, but everything else that he's singing is like really pulled back. It's just weird. I love it. But you guys, like, I feel like that. It feels like if you listen, front to back of Withered Trees, like. It's got just like such a hum thing. I'm obsessed with it.
And ever since the beginning, it's because if I'm going to be honest, the band that like really kind of drove me, which is, I feel like in a sense like an opposite, Balance of Composure.
Sure,
dude, they were like, I've been a fan of them. I discovered them probably in like 2011 through a friend, and then I saw them I think for the first time in like 2011 open for Circus Survive, because like They were pretty much buddies, and from that point on, like I mean I've seen Balance probably about like 7 or 8 times, and something just around the end of middle of like 2015, end of 2015, I just started, I'm like, man, I want to write music like that, like post rocky, like just that, like hearing the guitar tones from specifically the things we think we're missing. I was just I don't know, I just wanted to write something like them.
Were you a musician already?
Oh yeah, for sure. My first instrument was bass at the age of 12. I got a bass when I was 12 for Christmas, because my dad, he's been playing guitar since he was 16.
Crazy.
To the point where he was like a semi-professional. He had the opportunity to open the band he was in at the time. I was like just a baby. My brother and sister were a few years older, and the band he was in at the time got asked to tour and open for like the biggest Ozzy Osbourne tribute band of the time in the United States.
Whoa! What was it called?
Yeah. I can't even remember. To be honest, that was I wish I could.
Instead of Black Sabbath, it was like Grey Sunday.
Probably right. And so it was like to the point though where it was kind of, I don't know if it was a label, but it was some kind of representative had approached them and was like, this is like kind of the real, like, we're going to give you money to stay in hotels, like you're going to be able to buy, like enjoy yourself, but unfortunately my mom told him like, dude, you got 3 kids, you can't do that. So his dream of like being a musician got kind of crumpled early, and I feel like honestly not even feel like I know there's been times where he's trying to like vicariously do it through me.
Sure.
And it shows in the sense of my dad's always been super supportive when it's come to our music, and even my mom, but my dad in the sense of like, because he has the, like, you know, the cab I have, that, you know, that pink 212, dude, my dad, he built that, like he carpenter that, he built the shell, he, you know,
that's
collects it, he put, like, he helps me with, you know, all the maintenance. Well, not anymore, unfortunately, because I don't live around there. But you know, he helped me soup up mine. Because, dude, like the Telecaster I've been playing for like the last almost 7 years, it was just a Squier. It's just a Squier. It was like a $160 Squier I got from Guitar Center. But he always taught me, like, it's not about the guitar you get; it's about the way you treat it, the work you put into it, and you know, just the parts. And, you know, all I've done to this thing is, you know, I'll slap new strings on it, obviously, you know, I've gotten a couple little like cosmetic things, but, you know, I popped a new pickup in there, you know, I got a split so I could do dual or single coil depending on, you know, what kind of tones I want. And honestly, just doing that in itself and changing these tiny little things really made a difference. And it shows you don't have to, like, it's nice to, I'm sure, have like a Gibson or a Fender, but like, you don't have to pay $500, $600, $700 out of pocket to have a sound that you want.
Yeah, I agree.
Take the time to build that guitar, but it's not to say that it's not nice, or you won't necessarily even get other tones from those, because obviously every guitar is different. But It just on the side of, you know, because I've always kind of grew up on the lower income side. I was never really, you know, so having that. You know, advice from him and that side of things has just made it easier for me to have the sound I want without having to big budget, you know. So that kind of went on a long tangent, but yeah, ultimately my dad was a musician, and he brought me into it super early. Yeah, I got my first bass at 12, and it was downhill from there.
Did you really like bass?
I did. I still do. This is actually my own first bass that I've had since my first bass when I was 12.
Wow.
Is my Thunderbird. I love my Thunderbird. This thing is one of my dream basses, and I finally acquired it a few months ago because I had to record bass demos for the 2 tracks that we're working on. So I was like, you know what? I found this for like $250. I'm like, I'm going to bite the bullet, and now I have one of the basses I've been dreaming about having ever since I was a kid. So. But yeah, okay. Bass. I heard the ska band, the Suicide Machines.
Yeah, I think I mean, as much as I want to play the game, like, yeah, I've heard of them, but never listened to them. Like, it does sound familiar, but I've never listened to them.
So they are like on brand. They're ska at its finest, in my opinion. Like, to me, they're like, and I love also Lessa Jake is sick. You know, Big D and the Kids,
classics.
Real Big Fish. I love all, but the Suicide Machines were shown to me at like the ripe young age of, I was either 5 or 6, because I had a cousin who was already like early teens. So she was listening to like Korn, Nirvana, Limp Bizkit, Suicide Machines, ICP, like all this stuff that like I didn't know about, because my parents were like, my dad was stuck in classic rock, the 80s, you know, it was always Ozzy, Scorpions, Foreigner, stuff like that. So when I first heard this band, the Suicide Machines, the bass is what really stuck out to me. And I just, then hearing Rush, because Rush is like my dad's favorite band. And I actually had the opportunity to see Rush. I bought me and my dad tickets back in 2007 when I was 17 years old.
What?
Yeah, it was their Snakes and Arrows tour. And it was just, I will say, like, out of all the like classic rock, and I do love classic rock, I love hair metal, I love all that stuff.
Sure.
I mean, you know, but Rush would take the cake for me. Like, to me, they are just, there's no beating someone like Geddy Lee. There's no beating Alex Lifeson. There's no beating Neil Peart, dude. Like, I mean, and that's not to say like, dude, and I play blast beats, dude, and I think that's crazy, but like what Neil Peart, he might not do blast beats or like, but it's just, that man was like a human metronome. Mm-hmm. And he would just do stuff that was so off the wall that, like, you know, was paving the way. And, like, you know, drummers like me look up to, and like my generation, your generation, like, you know, ones that are going to be after me. And I just, so Rush was getting to see them. That's kind of like I feel like for you seeing Hum, like Rush was like all time. Like I couldn't have ever dreamed of seeing like Rush, and the fact that it happened at such a young age. In a sense, a young age. So yeah, when I hearing Geddy and hearing Royce Nunley, he was the bass player of the Suicide Machines at the time. Like those, just I went to my dad. I'm like, dude, I need to play this. I need to. It was just so funky. It's just so. I feel like a lot of the times, like the bass is underplayed. Like I feel like, and that's why if you listen to our music, especially with Withered Trees, that bass is usually always walking. It's always doing something, because I feel like the bass should be as important as and not necessarily just that rhythm. And it could be that rhythm instrument while being another melodic instrument, or adding to that big sound of like the ether. And to kind of really quick kind of build off of that, to with the 2 new songs that me and Carl have been working on, I put bass I put delay and some reverb even on the bass parts. And like I would have never before, whenever I wrote since the beginning up until Wither Tree, I never, like, I don't know why my brain thinks so simply about the music in a sense. And I just don't like, because I hear bands like you and 95 Corolla or bands like 10 Months Summer, or bands that like just do stuff with their instruments that I'm like, why haven't I thought about putting a delay on a bass? And I feel like it's kind of almost like a road, like there's a part of me that's like, dude, why like you don't need to, like that's weird. Like, why are you gonna, but it's like, why am I limiting like, and so it's been, and that's how honestly, like music has always, and writing it has always been for me. Even like as a young kid, I just always had a mental block, and I've always felt like it's like I know I can do these things, but I don't, because I'm in a sense like afraid to experiment, and I don't want people to disagree. But I feel like that's every musician. I feel like you probably have those days writing where you're like, man, I think this sounds great, or I feel like I could do this, but other people might not like this, so I'm not going to do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's a lot of like, I think that sometimes when it comes to, writing is very strange and personal and intimate, and everyone has a different version of it. My chair. There's a very like, when it comes to writing for me, it's like riff first. And then like I build my demos, like I guess the way that we write, it's because of the beginning of how 95 started, which was I put out an EP by myself.
So 95 started just like a solo part, like Sea Cars.
Yeah. So yeah. Okay. So yeah. So like I put out an EP called This EP Sucks, I Promise. And it's still up on Bandcamp. It's funny. I don't know. Well, there's like 3 songs that I'll never like redo. I think that are on that. Like the first versions of No Thanks is on there. The first version of R.I.P. It's all like so slow. But like I make demos. I don't master them, and I don't like fully mix them or anything. I make them sound as nice as I like. And then I present that to the band. Well, usually I present like a lick that from like a recorded on a phone. And then I'm like, hey, do you guys fuck with this? And then if it's like, then yes, it's basically like there's a democratic process of like people push things through. Like, Mikey will write something and be like, what do you guys think of this? And we're like, cool, let's do this, let's do that. And it's very democratic. Am I the principal songwriter? 100%. It's just like how it goes.
And like, honestly, and except in our case, obviously I have a drummer, so I don't really have another like guitar or bass section. I could be like, hey, what do you got to the table? Or, hey, here's this. Or so in a sense, and that's why like everybody tells us, hey, you need a bass player. Hey, and like, it's like, I want a bass player because I want to hear my bass parts that I wrote like live. I want, because the bass is supposed to add to the show. And like, cause like I said, I make it melodic and I try to make it very groovy and but then at the same time, it's like, I get reassurance from people being like, yo, you guys 2-piece, that's sick. Like that was all like, And then it's like,
oh, that's a weird fence that you have to ride.
It is. And then it's like, in the sense of like, when it comes to band decision though, it's easier because it's like, okay, hey Carl, instead of, you know, do all 3 or all 4 of you guys, can you get off this day? Okay, it's just one person I have to go to and be like, hey man, do you think you could get this day off? And usually, honestly, me and Carl like never really have it. I can't even, there's not one time me and him have ever disagreed on something or like, and that's why I've always been so appreciative of Carl and the fact that it is a toothpiece and that we can be someone, because like I feel like when you start mixing other people and it could also, you know, that's again, it's more opinions, it's more, so it's essentially been like me, you know, like kind of going back to the previous topic and point. It's like for me it's like, you know, I write, you know, I noodle, and then it's like, hey Carl, do you like this riff? And sometimes he's gotten a lot though, honestly, and this is what I've really kind of come to also end up really honoring about Carl and enjoying having him in the band, is that he's over the years kind of like he started like speaking his ideas more. Like if he hears like something in like a riff that I wrote, he'll be like, well, do you want to maybe try it like that? Or he'll be like, hey, I have this drum part, can you even try building something from the, because for the longest time it was just, you know, I bring the music, he like, hey man, here's the song, like, you know, do your drum part, like, you know, and you know, he would do his thing. But it's nice now that he's even like writing his own, because it now kind of pushes me to a new creative limit, because it's like I'm not used to having another guitar part or a drum party, because you can honestly, I feel like drums are underrated in that sense too, that like a drummer could come up with a drum beat, and honestly I feel like a whole song could be written around like reverse order instead of
100%.
So it's been nice to even have him come to me and be like, hey man, I have this. Or if we're practicing, he'll just like randomly be doing his thing, and I'll be like, let me grab my phone, let me record this, like give me a second. Or I'll have him record a video, send it to me so I can like watch him. And so he's been getting a little bit, I guess, as much involved in the writing as he can. But yeah, like essentially, you know, I'm the principal writer. Like this started with me. It started, you know, in my parents' bedroom, essentially, like my bedroom in 2015. And
you've been doing this for about 9 years. You know, when it comes to like that stuff, like, you know, you got 2 new songs possibly coming out. You've finally moved. All right. Also, maybe a little pretense. Sia Cars is a 2-piece. You do record bass and put it on the record, but when you play it live, you don't use a baritone guitar. You just kind of like. It'd be sick.
I will say to kind of adjust for that, and this kind of goes back to what I was talking about with like, you know, not needing to spend the most to have the sound that you want. One of the things to kind of compensate for not having the basses, most people tend to, you know, usually use 9-gauge strings. I actually bump it up to 10, so my top string is a little bit thicker, so I can get that little bit of more, you know, bass in the clean parts. But then also when I'm playing my distortion, it gives it a little bit more chunk because it's got that you know, heavier string. So not baritone per se, but I try to give it a little bit more bass with adding that extra size up.
I gotta take these dogs out. Give me a second.
Yeah. Do we need to move first?
Awesome. Yeah, they were just getting a little rowdy. Time to sit down. Okay,
cool. If my cat was in here, he would probably be like me. Well, he might even just be in the closet. But my cat, if I'm ever in here sitting down, he's always just walking around, just meow, meow, meow. I'm like, dude, you got food. Go eat.
So while you were writing all this stuff, you know, it's the Withered Trees. I would say as a full EP, it's awesome. It's great.
I'm sorry. What's up, buddy? My little guy apparently wanted to make an appearance. What's up, dude?
I love you.
I love you too. Did mommy make you something to eat?
Not yet.
Is mommy still sleeping?
Yeah.
If you're hungry, buddy, you wake her up, okay? You need to eat if you're hungry. All right. Okay. Now, are you just gonna be? You want to say hi? That's my friend Christy.
Hi.
They're in a cool band called 95 Corolla. Now he's just gonna be goofing.
Hell yeah.
Okay. Hey, buddy. You go hang out, watch your tail, okay? You wake mommy up if you're hungry, okay? You don't let her sleep, okay? I even told her earlier before I came in here. I thought she would have got up. But you wake that mommy up, okay?
Okay.
You let her know what you want to eat.
See you later.
I'll see you later.
Bye.
Bye. I love you.
That was like the cutest thing I've...
Oh, okay, thank you. Crack the door.
That was so cute. You're such a good dad.
I really try my best, and I will say, I never try to sugarcoat it though, because I mean I've met parents, and you see people that are just like, it's the greatest thing ever. Like I love it. It's so perfect. Nothing's wrong with being a parent, and like those people, like I mean, cool, I guess if you can think that way, but that's just not the reality at the end of the day. Like honestly, like before this, man, it was a tough morning. It was a tough morning being out. He was not being the most behaved in the store with his mother, and but it's times like that.
Yeah, that's those parts that makes it all worth it. 100%.
It is. And I wouldn't change it for the world. I wouldn't change it for the world.
Hell yeah. So the question I wanted to ask is, there is kind of a thing where you can only see so much of the totem pole if you're only a two-piece. Is being these narrow guardrails, do you think that it has enhanced the side of creativity of you writing, because you don't have to worry about asking other people for their advice in that aspect, where you get to come in and say, all right, well, I can do kind of technically 3/4 of the whole sound, and then only have to worry about this 25% from Carl, the drummer. Is that kind of like the thought process, or do you find it lonely in the writing process now?
Oh man, you're getting deep in this, huh?
I'm trying.
No, like you're doing. That's a great question. Holy crap. I would say more so as I've gotten older, and just you get different perspectives. You think about different. I would say at first, and obviously still to an extent at this point, I feel that just because it's it's my baby at the end of the day. But especially in the beginning, I will say I was very much just like, okay. Because it was a specific sound I was going for. And I just know that, especially out of the people that I knew at the time, like, or the few friends that I could have asked to be like, hey, do you want to start up this project with me? Which I'll kind of get into a little lore after this, which involves a bass player. And it was just like, yeah, because I wanted to, and most of the people that I knew just, that wasn't really their wheelhouse. It wasn't really what they were, what they either wanted, or I knew they wouldn't want to write, or it just wasn't really stuff that they listened to. And at the end of the day, me personally, one of my philosophies is like, you can't really, I mean, you could try your best, you really can, but I feel like you can't really do justice to a genre or like a sound you're going for if you aren't a fan of it or don't constantly hear it. Because if you don't hear that music or that genre, how are you going to know how to write it necessarily? You know what I mean? So yeah, in the beginning, especially, I was just like, you know what? I already had like certain like kind of riffs or ideas in my head. So I'm like, I'm just going to go sit down. My dad had his little mini recording studio. At the time I was using like his Les Paul, cause I didn't have my own guitar, and his bass, cause I didn't have my own bass. yeah, and so I just, at the time I was like, okay, this is cool. I like doing it myself. And plus it was, especially at the time, and it's still a way for me to, get away and it's a distraction. But back then, especially like when I started it, like, that was one of the biggest purposes. So it was nice it kind of added to okay, I like doing this by myself. But ultimately, I know now that like, my mind only can unlock so much, and like, yeah, I'm pushing, and like, I think I sent you like at least one, if not both of the demos that I was working on, and like, those are very different. And so like, I definitely pushed but still I feel like there's going to be a bounds and like, or a boundary, I should say more so. And, and not that Carl, like I said, Carl's definitely been coming to the table, or he'll be like, hey, I got this drum, but it's not the same as like hearing a melodic guitar riff or even a bass riff that you could say, okay, there's just so much you could fill in with like a guitar or another bass even. And just, I would like to have at this point, I feel like at least even a second guitar, to like a, this town needs guns type thing, except not math rock, because I can't write that shit. I'm not that good. So I feel like nowadays it could help. It could help take the writing even further than what I'm. And again, like the new stuff, it's even like I've surprised myself with the new stuff that I'm working on behind the scenes and with Carl. But at this point, I feel like having that third body could, even just a third one, but like, because it's hard for me to even envision us as a 3-piece, let alone like even having like 4 people on stage. Like that would just be so crazy to me. So I nowadays I'm a lot more open to it than I feel like I was in the beginning, because it was just, I was looking for a specific sound. And nowadays, like I know people, I know if I, and it's easy to do stuff remotely.
Sure. Yeah.
So I know even this day and age, like if I wanted to, I could probably reach out to some people like, hey, like, would you be potentially interested in, even if it's like they don't want to be like a sole part of but even just to have like people contributing. Like I wouldn't even mind just having people contributing, like if they wanted to, like for a small EP or even like, a couple like 2-song, single release and all that. But yeah. So I've become a lot more open to it for sure.
There's something I've been thinking about lately where as 95 is kind of winding down, like in between album cycles, and like there's a part where, okay, cool, we did like this thing, and we're going. It's been almost a full year since the record.
Say it.
Yeah, it came out May 31st. It came out May 31st last year, and so we're coming up to a year on it.
Wow.
And there's a part of me where it's like, okay, how bad do you want to do LP2? How bad do you want to do more? How bad do you want to do this? How bad do you want to do that? What percentage of this you want in your life? What does this even mean anymore? Like there's these questions that I have to ask myself all the time of just like, okay, like, because I think no one really understands that being in a band is a very ethereal experience anyways. Like it's not, as much as you want it to be part of like your 9 to 5 and 5 to 9 routine, it's not real. Like it is
unless you're like, U2 or something.
Well, but that's their 9 to 5 then. I mean, like there's a lot of people that I know that have been like, okay, you want to know what would be so sick is if I could fucking play video games all day. And so they start streaming and they're like, cool, I'm going to do this. But then they find out that like that's what they have to do in order to make money. And then officially that now the love is gone, they hate playing video games. There's like that. So like I know so many stories of people that are finally doing what they love, but now they don't love it because it's not this hobby that you get to fall into. Like you get to fall into this thing that you are like, that you love. I will always say that like music should be a hobby, but it should, at least have a percentage in your life. I think it's really important. I think that's maybe why I wrap like the podcast. I have written reviews for people. I'd like to at least have more hands and more fingers and pies when it comes to it, rather than just being in a band. What is, over the course of like the last, like, you know, of the last 9 years, the percentage of your life that has been band? What do you want more band stuff after 9 years? Where do you see everything? What do you see that happening in the next like couple of years? Like, what do you want now?
Okay, I'm gonna be straight, dude. Like, so I think I've maybe done like 3 interviews. So I'm not putting the interview spot, and I feel like that's just because we're not the biggest band. It's not like a ton of people, but so I will say, out of all the few interviews I had, these are like the most existential, like in the topic of like the music sense I've ever. And you're really making me like have to think. Not like I know what I want to say, but it's crazy, man. Because I'm like, dude, I need to be asked these questions about my band.
That's what, I feel like it's really important for musicians to hear these questions being asked as well, because like you need to be answering these yourself when this isn't your 9 to 5.
Exactly.
How much time do you really want to fucking put into this? How bad does anybody really want this? And people that like have unrealistic expectations, like what is the reality of the situation look like?
So since Sea of Cars started, this is, and I honestly, even during the span of Sea of Cars, I was in 2 or 3 other bands. Mm-hmm. At one time, I was in 3 bands at once. So I mean, like, but even then, Sea of Cars was still always the priority, especially then. And not that it isn't now. It's just obviously, different factors come into life and things change. And honestly, like, even though we've been a band for 9 years, a good chunk of that was, unfortunately, us being inactive, just because, like, I became a dad. You got to find a new fit. It's not the same. And, luckily I was able to come back a year or so ago, when we were still living back home, and, we were able to pick back up for a while, and that was really nice. But, it's just.
How many years have you been active of the 9?
Because we were active straight, like, once we started playing shows. Our first show was on my mom's birthday, December 16th, 2015. Wow. Beat Kitchen. I booked that show myself.
At Beat Kitchen? That's crazy.
That was our first show ever. If you're familiar with Sincere Engineer, Deanna Bellows.
Yeah.
So I went to high school with her.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah. She's from the same little suburb I'm from, pretty much, Orland Park. Not my birthplace, but where I grew up.
Sure.
And actually, her first show was that first show opening for us. She opened for us. And now look at her. Yeah, dude, wow. I think it's so crazy when I see the stuff she's doing. Yeah, we've been around, like, because she's, I don't know if you saw, she's doing the documentary for, like, the 10-year.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's got a documentary, like, she I guess she was working on over the past year. And, dude, it's Sincere Engineer. Yeah, she opened that show. I had hit her up because I saw, like, on Facebook back at the time, like, she was working on music and this and that. So I hit her up. I said, hey, like, I know it's been a long time since we talked, like, high school pretty much. Like, I said, but, I really like your music and what, I'm hearing. And I was just wondering, I got this, show. I'm booking our first show for, my new band. And it was also a holiday drive. It was like a toy drive. I was trying to make it like a toy drive around them. And she was like, yeah, I'll play. So yeah, she ended up opening the show as just an acoustic. She was just herself before the band. Yeah. Before all the stuff. And yeah. So
that's insane.
I don't even, there's a little bit of Sea of Cars. So at that time also, we were a 3-piece originally. We were a 3-piece for the first 6-7 months of our career. But unfortunately, our bass player at the time, a lot of stuff ended up just like piling up where he didn't have a car. I was picking him up for practice, which he lived like 20 minutes past where Carl lived because we practiced at his parents. So then I'd be driving to get him, drive back.
That stuff sucks.
Yeah, he would be using, he didn't have his own bass or bass amp, so he was using a bass Carl had and a bass amp Carl had. So he couldn't really practice on his own at home. So like and I love the dude. He's my best friend to this day, other than Carl. But it eventually came to the point where me and Carl talked, and we're like, dude, maybe, like, should we let him go? Like, this just isn't, it's. And so the day I went, or I was gonna talk to my buddy, he actually brought it. He's like, hey man, like, I want to talk to you. Like, not that I'm not having fun and this and that. He's like, but dude, obviously, like, there's a lot going on, and I don't think like it's best that I'm in the band. I'm like, whoa. That's man, I'm sorry to hear that, dude.
Crazy. That's so crazy.
Talk about it. So ever since then, though, we had one other bass player who was one of the guitarists in a band Carl was in at the time called Dead Split Egos.
Jason.
Buddy, please. You go eat your nummies, okay? See, he loves attention, and he knows I'm talking to someone, so he wants to be the center. Are you eating anything?
Jason, honey, come back out here.
Please, go. Close the door. I'll be done soon. All right. Oh, don't give me that look. Oh my God, he just gave me the stank eye. Yeah. So we were active from like 2015 as soon as we started playing, literally up until I had originally tried to move after graduating with my associates in 2019. So we were active essentially like almost about 5 full years, and then essentially from when I moved until when we picked back up in 2023, because I think our first show was like June 2023 that I booked at Downstairs Sub T.
Crazy.
Yeah, and that's another thing, man. And to be honest, like, not just only, and this kind of goes back to you talking about how, like, which was part of the question, is like, how much do you want to do this? Like, how much time, like, it ends up becoming more of a job when you get to a certain point. And even though, again, we're not the biggest, this is not my 9 to 5, but when we were, especially in those days, and then even when we were active for that, so ultimately like 6 years total out of the 9 we've been active.
Cool.
I mean, and I'd say we're set because, we came back, for my birthday, which honestly blew my mind. Dude, we had a full crowd for our set. It was such a warm welcome home after like not playing for 8 months to see on a Wednesday night, no less.
That's
and
cool.
It was just really heartwarming to know that people still cared about this little tiny band, that I created, and to me is like, pretty much like the greatest creative endeavor that I've ever, journeyed on.
Yeah, totally.
So, oh geez, I got to peel back. My short-term memory is dying out. The 9 to 5 thing. Oh, so yeah, essentially, like all those years that we are active, and not only have I been the one essentially being like the principal writer and having to create the music and then rack my brain with that, but I've been. Other than, and I thank Carl for that part that he does. He mainly runs like, he'll make like when you see the really nice like posts on our social media, like the super detailed, like that's Carl. Cause he actually has a degree in like social media in a sense, and like that kind of like marketing in a sense. So he's always been really good. But, when it comes to like the fake, the talking, as you know, on Twitter, that's me, commenting on anything essentially like that's me.
Hell yeah.
But, I'm always the one, again, like, I can't even tell you at this point how many shows I've booked, whether it's for us or for sometimes other people. I'm the one that's always doing all like the, emailing. And so I'm not only the creative, like musical driving force, but I'm also doing like the whole back end, trying to figure out, like, can we get merch done? Like even if it's like the 3-day or 4-day runs we've done, even booking for that is a headache because you got to message so many, and I'm sure you just got to message so many venues, and it just, that's the part, because like I say, it might not be a 9 to 5, but even so, like it's still it took up a lot of my hours of even being on my phone, like if I'm at when I was working at bands or whatever retail job I was working or sitting in class, like at college. And like, I knew, oh man, dude, like there's so much, I got 4 shows I need to like, I'm working on like talking to people. And I got, so like, even then it felt like a 9 to 5 because it was bleeding into everything else that I was doing,
it's like part of your routine now, like where it's just like, this is, I have to do this. Like, I mean, I still have to do like my Montrose every day, and I've got to do this, I'm going to do that, I got to find new bands to put, like it's just weird. It's the stuff that you fill your day with, where I feel like hanging out with your partner and your kids and like going to work, it all feels like this, nice bullet point of when you're doing these things. These are the things you have to do every day. You have to go to work, hang out with my family, be a good husband, be a good partner, be a good friend, and then suddenly there's this other job, of being in a band and like doing these things and developing these relationships, and it's business development and writing music, and I gotta post a TikTok, I gotta do that, I gotta check Twitter. There's like all this is like it's a whole other like secret list of like things that you have to do that I feel like either everyone like says fuck a job, I only want to do this, like, which I find to be a little naive unless you're like 20.
See, like when you're 34 like me, you can't, at this point you can't really.
Yeah, dude, like I'm 37. Like I have the time, and I have an incredible partner that lets me do a podcast and have a band, and I think I have a reasonable attachment to these things. And I think maybe that's what the whole thing is. Maybe it's about reasonable attachment. I think that maybe that's what you hit that sweet spot. Maybe that's when like everything starts gaining traction, because you're not thinking about where you're supposed to be in your relationship to the band anymore.
Okay. Yeah, it's like you almost have to have moderation with it.
Yeah,
it's hard because, like I said, when there's so much I feel like you got to do, like when it's you got to book things, or you got to.
Yeah, but it's about sweet spot. It's about like what before it starts costing you, and before it starts costing the other things around you. Like that's where that sweet spot is, where it's like, oh, once I can do that, and it's not costing my relationship with my partner or my kids or my job or anything. That cool. That's where it sits nicely in my life,
and that's kind of why I waited to become more active in a sense, because like I feel like I could, because I had to set up, I had a rig when my son was a year old, the whole time, and I just knew that, like, I don't know, it still just wasn't time, like,
Sure.
I feel like he needed, and I mean, granted, it's not like we're out there touring, or even we play maybe like when I was back home like 2 shows a month, but even then, because again, with like because I didn't want to, because like I said before, my son, I'd be sitting in class, I'd be sitting at work, I'd be sitting, practicing with one of my other bands. I'd be like, oh, let me send like this quick email, about, and it's like, I know if I would have tried getting back into it, like I, want to, or how me and Carl were, like, dude, I'd be sitting there on my phone in front of my son, because I'd be like, making a post about a show,
totally.
or messaging someone, or doing this or that, like you say, because it's either, if you're not emailing someone, it's like, oh, I got to make this TikTok post, or I got to post this reel nowadays, reels on Instagram, reels on Facebook, or I got to do so, like, and I've always been bad about that, to be honest. And I feel like that's
hard.
It is. And especially when you have, again, that whole other person, different, life outside, where your dad, your partner, you're not musician.
Yes.
And obviously that stuff's going to bleed in, and like that kind of takes us, maybe I'm speaking on my own behalf, but that for me personally, like my mental health is always like, for sure, I feel like, and it's caused Sea of Cars to kind of be, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, not necessarily not be able to reach our potential, but I feel like it's definitely like held things back the slightest bit. And yeah, because I'm bad about promoting our music, because I have bad imposter syndrome. I mean bad, dude. Like, and I feel like I'm throwing like I'm shoving stuff down people's throats if I like put, hey, check out like this one song, and like I know I shouldn't feel that way, but for me it's just like that's the biggest mental battle when it comes to our band, is like promoting and like putting ourselves out there.
I mean, no one wants to feel like the act of doing all this stuff is a chore. Like, and that's what it feels like sometimes. You're like, I've got to check Twitter because I need to do this thing. I have to post because of this thing. I've got to check my boxes. And if I don't, I'm not doing everything I'm supposed to. Yeah, it's bullshit.
And then it makes you feel like you're neglecting like your creation. And then that kind of brings you down more. And it's a tough mental game being, I feel like in general, being in a band, especially a band that wants like, really do things or at least try to make some kind of solid ground.
Yeah, and plus, like, I think there's a misconception that you have to, like, sacrifice fucking everything for this shit. And I think maybe it's also about confidence and just, like, it's if you're, as long as you're just, like, excuse me. There is, I saw a band post about wanting, like, how do I get more traction? How do I do this thing? Like, I don't remember what band was that. I kind of lost my train of thought. Okay, here, I'm going to go to another question. When it comes to, you've been doing this for a long time, what do you wish you could tell yourself, travel back in time 9 years ago? Hey, here's the pros and cons of what the last 9 years were.
Like in respect to like
to yourself. Like, yeah.
Oh, gee. Honestly,
in regards to the band specifically, yeah.
This is honestly probably the easiest question that you've asked me because I've always felt this way, and I've always even expressed it to Carl. And have felt bad because Carl is. And I'm about to out myself here a little bit personally. Carl is always been very responsible, very good financially. Very smart, responsible guy. He really is. Me, on the other hand, and I know this kind of goes back to, kind of getting into a bit of psychology and going, you want to go deep? We're going to go deep. Again, I mentioned earlier, like I did not grow up with pretty much wealth by any means. It was like sometimes, eating the bread with butter and sugar on it kind of stuff. Like we didn't grow up with a lot. I didn't get vacations and stuff. So when I started working, at a young age, 16, and like pretty much any time since then, like I always just had the mentality that like, man, I have money. Like I could get things.
Yeah.
And granted, that started obviously way before Sea Cars. When I got to that point and Sea Cars became a thing, an existing entity, that still, unfortunately, I'd still be spending my money on going to concerts or, going to the dispo or, buying vinyl or, I would make sure my bills were paid and stuff. But like, instead of spending the money where I knew it would have mattered, like we could have been having like, to me, what's real merch. Like we have one shirt design and it was and I'm not an artist, dude. It was just a kooky little thing that I was like, man, this just would be weird. This is weird looking. Like, I feel like I'm going to make a shirt out of this. So I just did it because I was like, okay, I want to have some kind of merch and like,
sure.
I just regret not being, more prioritizing, to the band financially. Cause I feel like that would have opened a lot more of the doors,
sure,
to potentially being able to, tour more or, get more releases out and, be able to have merch or create like even CD. Like, I mean, we have, physical copies of Wither Trees on CD, which is, I'm stoked about. And I would like to, cause I have my own, which is honestly something I want to kind of, do, hopefully soonish in the future. I'll kind of bring it up. It has to do with tapes, cassettes, but, like even if it was just to be able to get small merch like but I just always wanted instant gratification. So I was always just, spending my money where it shouldn't have been. And nowadays I'm trying to, especially because me and Carl are so far away, but like I've been trying to be more mindful of that towards the music and when we go forward and really try, because like we might not be able to, get to the point where I wanted to be when I was young,
Sure.
because I was 25 essentially when we started, or like 23, 24 when we started seeing cars. And, but I still believe that like, it's never too late for a lot. And getting my degree when I was like last year at the age of 33 kind of taught me that. And I feel like that can apply to a sense to a band. Like you've said, you have a partner who's supportive enough that allows you to be able to do these things. And I will say that's one thing I'm very grateful for is my son's mother has always been very supportive. And, granted, it's never the longest or it's not a lot, but like, she's stayed home to watch our son while I go for a weekend or, drive out to Tennessee for a one-off show, and just, it's
exciting.
It's crazy.
It's exciting.
It's a lot.
Yeah. It's like, it's been a long 9 years.
It really has. And honestly, it doesn't even feel like I said, we're coming up technically December 16th. That was our first show we played. So that's like our live, like 10-year, but our first release didn't come out until like the next month, January, January 6th. So essentially, like the fact that like I've been, because I had a band prior to Sea of Cars that was very different. It was an acoustic instrumental project. It was another duo. It was me and a different drummer. And I did that with him for about like 2-3 years leading up. And then that kind of just dissolved. And I was like, I got to do something different. And that's when I was like, I'm going to pick up an electric guitar. And and it doesn't even feel like that moment was 10 years ago, It's just crazy to think of all the things. And again, we might not be the biggest band in the world. We, might only have 14 monthly listeners at the most at a given time on Spotify, which numbers don't mean shit. But it's just like I think about some of the stuff that we've done, or like my set. Here you go, another lore. Our second show ever, the one after that Beat Kitchen show with Sincere Engineer opening for us. Our second show ever was down at ISU in Bloomington Normal in Illinois.
Sure.
We opened for Lobby Boxer. In a basement, a dingy ass basement, dude. We opened for Lobby Boxer, and
that's
now
crazy.
They just were here like 3-4 days ago with one of my favorite grindcore, like math, like core MySpace bands. The Number 12 Looks Like You.
Yeah,
they were opening for that, and dude, the fact that I opened for Lobby Boxer, and now they just played and are touring with one of my all-time favorite bands. Like it's insane. I think about that, or like. We once, the venue RIP Township, it was a venue in Chicago. We played one of our many Halloween shows as Blink-182. And we played to a sold out crowd of what was 250, maybe a little bit more people. And to me, that's just like, I never would have dreamed of playing to more than like 20 people.
Yeah, there's a lot of, I think when you look back on it, it's a lot of qualitative rather than quantitative.
Definitely, for sure.
I think that's something that I would tell myself, where it's like, hey, there's gonna be some really weird moments, but the qualitative response to the whole thing is that it's 100% positive. Like, it was a good experience. Like, I think it's a very strange thing to be in a band, but everyone gets to do it their own way, and that's why I like asking people their stories.
It's your journey. It's your creation.
Yeah.
So I completely.
What I would like to play a song. What song from your catalog do you want to play on the?
Oh, jeez Louise. See, because part of me is like, dude, I didn't even expect it to happen for this song, but like, dude, 9 Minutes to Montrose has like honestly become like easily our most popular song, which I didn't.
It's incredible.
I didn't. And the way we came up with that song was me and Carl were driving to a show. We were going to play some cool show opening for some Canadian shoegaze band, Autopilot. Shout out to them. And we were driving, and on one of the traffic signs, it just said 9 minutes to Montrose, because it'll give you the times to search streets. And I'm like,
sure.
9 minutes to Montrose. I'm like, dude, that's a sick name. I said, I think I might hold on to that. Carl's like, dude, I think you should do that. And so like that song was already written. And I don't know if like you ever have a like thought process like this ever, but like the song was written and just a lot of the songs were written for the LP at the time, but like that song, it just sounded like that name.
Yeah,
that
totally.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So that just it ended up becoming 9 Minutes to Montrose, and yeah, so it's like I always like when people ask me like what song do you want or what song do you think, like I feel like that's the song that would turn people on like the quickest or to get their. But to me, I think about the deep, like, because to me, Withered Trees, like the title track, that's honestly probably like, if not my favorite, at least number 2 off of that out. Like just, and I wish that one got a lot more attention.
Well, let's play it.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, let's do Withered Trees.
We're gonna play. I'll play Withered Trees by Sea of Cars, the title track from that record that came out in 2020.
Gray skies falling with time. Light binds, minds are dry. Night time caress our lives. Dead leaves withered cries.
That was Withered Trees by Sea of Cars. Charles, Big Dog, thank you so much for coming on. Just
Big Dog. 5'4" Big Dog.
Yes, dude. Enjoy Denver.
Thank you. I'm trying.
Do your thing. And I love you. I love you, just man. You're the best. Thanks for playing with us last year. Like, I hope that you have.
Thanks for having us on that show. That was honestly, I will say that.
It was a good show.
Easily top 1 or 2 shows I've ever played. That show was just, it was so bonkers, so high, so sweaty, the hype, just having you guys, meeting you guys. It was just,
yeah, dude,
it was one of the most perfect nights. I don't remember a lot because my brain is terrible, but that is a night I can actually like play in my head, and that's why it's so dear to me, because it was just that endearing and that like captivating of a night. So thank you guys for having it, because that was like our little run kickoff. So thank you for helping us.
No, dude, it was adding you was like an easy thing. It was so dope. Have a wonderful rest of your day. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, Chrissy. Have a good day.
See you, dog.